Well, this is exciting, isn't it? We've already got to part 3 of building a keynote, and quick apologies in advance if you can hear any building work happening behind me. As far as I can tell, my neighbour has decided to smash her entire building to the ground and then rebuild it at exactly the same time I'm trying to make these videos. But we're on to part 3. So we've done the groundwork, the essential groundwork, but now we can start getting into what I think is the exciting stuff in terms of building a keynote. And the next step I decided to do was to really engage with the theme, with the conference theme. Now, even if you haven't got an explicit theme, very often in your own presentations and your meetings, there often will be a theme. So the theme might be the project that you're working on. The theme might be the elephant in the room that nobody's talking about. There'll very often be a theme. And if you haven't got a theme, you can create your own theme, of course. But I had a theme. I had a very explicit, a very clear theme across a 3-day conference. I'm doing the opening keynote, so I've got to establish that theme very firmly and clearly in the audience's mind. And the theme in this case was stand out, right? Hashtag stand out. So I really want to engage in this. And I did a few things, and I hope these ideas will be useful for you as well. First of all, I don't know about you, but for me, it doesn't work sitting at a desk and sort of doing this and saying, okay, I'm going to be creative. I'm going to have good ideas right now, right? That doesn't work for me. What works for me is what I call walking and sleeping work. And what I mean by that is I wrote down the theme stand out. I've actually got a big whiteboard in my office, so I wrote it in big letters. I wrote down a few of the very quick ideas that come to me, and then I just leave them alone for a while. I go off for a walk, or I sleep on it overnight. And I come back with a few more ideas and I write those down and think about those. But I think we do a lot of our best creativity when we're just letting ideas bubble away under the surface. And across 3 or 4 days, I found that I was getting better and better ideas, more creative ideas, more interesting ideas. So I want to create a bunch of those, and I did. I won't go into all the details because the details are only relevant for the people who are there for that exact keynote. I'm just trying to give you a few ideas to prompt your own thinking. But I've got a, if you like, a word cloud of ideas now. And then the next thing I decided to do was I separated those into obvious and non-obvious. So with stand out, I really, especially as the opening keynote speaker, I don't want to be obvious. In a way, you can't stand out if you're being obvious, can you? So I wrote down for myself, what are all the obvious things that come to mind when you think about standing out? And for me, some of those were sort of physical things like, the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you move. Some of those things that I think a lot of other speakers are going to talk about and a lot of the audience will already have considered. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm not criticizing those ideas, but I don't want to be obvious in my opening keynote. And then, of course, when I try and create a non-obvious list of things that are related to standing out, that really fires up my creativity. It really gets me to think in different ways. So I played around with anagrams. Are there any good anagrams of stand out? No, there aren't. Right. I even tried using ChatGPT, and no, there are some rubbish anagrams, but there aren't any good ones. So that was a non-obvious idea that went nowhere. But then I started playing around with the grammar, standing out as a particular kind of verb. Is there anything interesting in there? And actually there was, because standing out relates to lots of other similar verbs. Stand in, stand for, stand behind, stand with, stand together. So there's actually quite a lot of fruitful stuff around that. And I thought, all right, that's something no one else is going to speak about. Nobody else is going to consider that as an idea, and actually the audience, I'm certain 99% of the audience at least won't have considered other things that are similar to standing out but not the same. So that started to give me some really fruitful ideas as well, and actually it helped me to write the very ending of my keynote, which I'll come to in another video. So the basic idea here is try and be as creative for yourself as possible. Don't settle, don't leap for the first idea. And certainly what I wanted to avoid is just opening up PowerPoint and saying, standing out, what does standing out mean? Here are 10 bullet points about how you stand out. I really wanted to avoid that because that's a training session on stage. And it will be fine, but it won't be great, and it won't work as a keynote. It won't get an audience excited and engaged and enthused. So there's my top tip, my friends. Grab the theme, tussle with the theme. Don't rush it. Let your creativity bubble away, and don't settle for the obvious. Really go for the non-obvious, and you'll find you'll suddenly get an idea, and you'll know, oh, that's it. That's exactly right. That's the germ around which I can now, not the germ. I didn't mean to say germ. That's the thing that will germinate into. That's the seed that will germinate into a great keynote. I hope that's really useful for you, and more next time.